Hello, welcome to the Questing Hour podcast.
Happy
It's
Monday.
Monday again. Happy Monday.
Hello, travelers.
Hey, hope you had a great weekend.
Yeah, and I hope
Mhm.
you've completed your
Oh
quests.
yeah. Let's see, we had two quests for Thursday and one for Monday. So that was a big week. Three quests.
Crazy
Yeah.
business
So Monday we did something.
that we've been putting
Yeah,
off for so long.
yeah. Monday we did something we've been putting off. I remember this. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Which I
And
actually did. I
oh,
cleaned my room. I
whoa!
know, it's beautiful. Mwah, mwah,
As you
mwah.
should.
Yeah,
I
I
bet
feel
your
like
brain
it
feels so much better now.
does. It's like I can like live in my space now and not be
You
like,
can think,
oh God,
yeah,
a
yeah,
monster. Yeah.
monster. And it's just like weighing on you because it's like,
Mhm.
oh, I know I have to put it away. I know I have to do
Yeah.
it, but
Hmm.
I'm going to put it off until later.
Yeah.
And I saw this thing that was saying that we often um put off tasks for like, this goes along with what I was saying like before about how we're like instant gratification people.
Oh yeah.
So we
Hmm.
would rather, have these short-term happinesses or short-term victories instead of
Hmm.
these long-term victories. So it's like we keep putting off these big old tasks that we have to do
Yeah.
because we would rather get these smaller things done to feel better
Hmm.
about ourselves and feel better about
Yeah.
those things as
Hmm.
opposed to just getting the bigger things done and over with.
Yeah. And I'm very much like a deadline person. Like my parents are visiting like May 15th or something. And I
Yeah.
was like, in my mind, I was like, so I technically don't have to clean my room until May 15th or like May
Until
14th
like
at
May
midnight.
14th at midnight before my
Yeah.
parents get
Or like
here.
I leave early from work and I beat them there or something like that. But
Yeah.
it's just so more freeing to just do it when I'm not stressed about it.
Oh,
Hmm.
absolutely. Like I remember like the biggest example of this is like procrastinators. Like when I was in
Hmm.
college, I used to procrastinate like studying and putting things off that I needed to until like the last
Yeah.
second because I was like a stress worker.
Oh yeah.
And then the few times that I did things like a week in advance or like
Hmm.
whatever, I was like, this is so weird. Like
Why
I
don't I
have
do
the
this every
rest of
time? Yeah.
yeah, why don't I do this every time? And like it wasn't enough. It was like, okay, the next week when I had something due, it was like, do I
Hmm.
go out with my friends or do I do what I'm supposed to do?
Yeah.
And what did I do? I put it off and I went out with my friends,
Yeah.
obviously. But like, it's just a instance of that when
Mhm.
really it could have been like probably done and over with and I would have been way less stressed
Right.
if I had
Yeah.
just did it in the first place.
Hmm.
I'm glad you finally put your mountain away.
Thank you so much. I feel very free. It's like I can look at my floor now and be like, whoa, when did I get carpet?
Ooh, wow, I could walk around.
It's so great.
I my when I was younger, my mom used to like when she used to yell at me to clean my room because
Mhm.
I was literally the messiest child on the planet. And I to get away with like not cleaning my room because she always used to be like, "You can't even walk on the floor." Blah, blah. I would like go from the door and like
Oh
make
my
a
gosh.
path
No, I
to
do
my
the same
closet
thing like a fire exit. Yeah.
like a fire exit. And like my room was like a rectangle, so like it was like the door was here and my bed was here and the closet was next to my door.
Hmm.
So I literally would just like make a path next to my bed to the closet
Carve
and
out.
then
Yeah.
the mountain uh, I can't even like describe to you how horrible. Like my
Yeah.
mom should have set my room on
Oh my
fire
gosh. No, I get it.
because
I've been
like
there.
it wasn't even just clothes, it was
Hmm.
like everything. I had papers. I had
Yeah.
like a dresser, right? That was
Hmm.
probably like the size of this chair.
Yeah.
I had a mountain of stuff like halfway up the
Oh my
dresser
gosh.
in front of my TV because I just like
Yeah.
kept pushing everything to the side. It was
Hmm.
like my clothes, papers,
Yeah.
toys, like
Hmm.
everything was pushed off to the side. And my mom was like, Either you clean this or I'm trashing everything in here."
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm. No, I feel like everyone has that like the clothes chair in their room where they throw all their clothes
they
when they
just
don't want
toss
to put them
everything.
away.
Yeah.
But when you live by yourself, your whole house can be a clothes chair.
Especially if you don't really have people over.
Yeah,
It's
which
just
is what
like,
I'm realizing like, whoa, I can put anything
like
wherever I want. There's nothing stopping me.
I am the queen of my castle.
Whoa, which I gotta I gotta shape up if I'm gonna be the queen.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That is so funny.
Hmm.
Yeah, I did mine. I did
Yeah.
2. actually did like quite a few because I was one of the things I also wanted to do was like go through my emails
Hmm.
and clean out my like my email box because like sometimes I save emails because I think they're important and
Yeah.
then like months and years go by and next thing I know I have like over 100 emails in my inbox that like are just sitting there
Yeah.
but I've already read them. So it's like I went through and I like cleared out my trash, my spam,
Oh,
my
nice.
box full of
Hmm.
things that I don't need. And
Yeah.
then as I mentioned in the last episode, I like I finished my writing like I wanted to that I was putting off. And
Hmm.
then yeah,
Nice.
I forget what else.
Yeah.
I did it though, I swear.
I swear I did it. It'll
I
come back.
swear.
It'll
Look
come
on
back.
Instagram and TikTok, you'll see.
You'll see it happen, man. There's
You'll
proof.
see it happening.
There's photo evidence. So our Thursday quest was
Our
to
Thursday quest was
do
to
something out of your comfort zone.
yeah, break our
Hmm.
routine a little bit, try something new.
Yeah.
And how was yours, Maggie?
It was good. So I talked about when I go to restaurants and stuff, I kind of just get the same thing every time. And I was like, no, think bigger, Maggie, but not too much bigger. So I
Not too
actually
much.
went to a restaurant that I've been wanting to try for a long time, but I just never have. And I went there and it was mwah, so good.
Really?
Yeah, it was, I can't remember what it was called, but it's like a Greek Mediterranean place. And I've been putting it
Yes.
off for so long, but that's like my favorite kind of food. So I finally went and I was like, oh, I don't know the menu. I'm scared. But I like went in, looked at the menu, and I was like, give me a second. I've never been here before. And then I was there and it was delicious.
I love
And
that.
yeah, so it became probably a new staple in my little restaurant rotation, which I'm super excited for.
Good.
Yeah.
It'll become part of your routine and you'll
Yeah.
learn to love it even
Hmm.
more and maybe you'll try something new next time.
Yes.
Ooh. I also have been going on like a lot more walks just like
Hmm.
outside, which has been like cuz I have to take my dogs out more like more now because we don't have our own personal yard. We just have like a
Yeah.
little area, so I have to like take them out in the leash and walk them. So I've just been
Hmm.
like going farther around the block and like exploring new areas of where I live since I just moved here.
Yeah.
So that is fun also. A lot easier than
Yeah.
trying to learn the ukulele.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Mhm. But whatever you guys did to go out of your comfort zone, we'd love to hear about it. So share it with us. Let us know. Tell us in person, whatever you want to do.
yes,
We
please.
want to be a part of your adventure with you.
I want to know.
Share your lives with us
Give it to me.
now. But our other Thursday quest
Our
was
Maggie
a Maggie
quest.
quest, which was to write a poem and share it with someone.
Be the tortured poet.
Yes, because I know I am.
I feel
So,
that.
Ari, do you have any poetry you'd like to share with us?
Yes, I have a lot. I wrote quite a few
Yeah.
because, it comes easy to me.
I'm something of
It's
a tortured poet myself.
something of a little bit tortured, if you ask me.
Not
Not to brag.
to brag, but I'm like super tortured.
And you know what? It works for the arts, okay?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, hold up. I'm pulling up a specific one. It's hard because I know like it's just hard because like some of them are like it's like way almost way too emotional. Like I
Yeah.
know that we had said like write a poem and share it with
Hmm.
somebody, anybody, because your voice deserves to be heard. But like some of them are almost like not that I don't want to share it, but it's like vulnerable.
Yeah,
And some of
that's
them
what
it's
I
like,
said
yeah,
last week
it
when we were thinking about it. I was like, some of my poetry is a little too mean to put on the
Yeah,
podcast.
yeah, it's just like it's like way
Yeah,
too like almost
it's
too
deep. It's
much
a
right
lot.
now. Like
Yeah.
it cuts too deep and
Hmm.
it's like I
Yeah.
do want to share it, but like would this be good for me if I shared it? Like
Yeah,
is
and I
that,
mean that's the thing with art. Like sometimes it's made to be shared, sometimes it's only for yourself, and you get to decide which is which.
true.
Hmm.
Very, very true. This one I'm actually thinking about putting in a book that I'm working on.
Ooh.
So you guys get to hear it first.
Hmm.
Loki.
Oh,
Sorry.
buddy.
He was hitting the door.
Oh.
Okay, so this one I'm thinking about putting in a book, and you guys get to hear it first. It is about my first kiss ever. and
Spicy.
then about my first kiss with um the love of my life, basically.
No.
In comparison. It definitely is needs to be okay. I'm just being a critic of myself. I need to stop. It's called They Were. The first kiss with him, they were moths. It didn't feel right as you rushed your way around the corner, caught me by surprise. The butterflies never even had a chance to live in such an awkward environment. A four-letter word had hung in the balance, a yearning for something I had never felt, quite like the books had described. The books said that they were supposed to be butterflies, but they weren't. And now you're just a memory. I should have known at the first sign when the dusty wings clotted my stomach, making me queasy like the lunch I had was rotten. Because I knew I didn't love you like the way Jack and Rose or Han and Leia or Bella and Edward did. How was I supposed to know what to do? I didn't know what I was missing when you swung the corner as you were leaving my house. Time froze, but I think it was the moths. The first kiss with you. They were butterflies. Everything slowed like time was waiting for me to act on the instincts that had been on my mind. A four-letter word had hung in the balance, a yearning for something I'd never felt until now, quite like the books had described. I knew what it was. The flutters were overwhelming, and all at once everything clicked into place. Every touch burning with a passion that matched mine in every way I could think. We bore into each other's souls, and I remember as the light hit my eyes how my heart had held me captive to you before I was even yours. I found mine so soon in this lifetime. Eyes dark and hair disarray, our bodies a puzzle that seemed to fit in perfect places. My first kiss with you.
I love it. So great. I think I've heard you say that one before. It's one of my
Yeah.
favorites. So, so good. Hmm.
Yes.
Ah, I love it so much. The
Thank you,
symbolism.
thank
And
you.
then the Han and Leia and Bella and Edward. Like, oh, it's so cute. It's so cute. So good.
I was like, what other famous lovers are there?
Yeah.
But
Come on.
culturally,
Yeah.
it's
No,
it
it's
was
so good.
relevant to
Hmm.
me.
Yeah. That's so great.
Thanks.
Here is mine.
Give it to me.
So I kind of, whenever I write poetry, I kind of just word vomit onto the page.
Yeah.
And then I have a hard time like finding rhythm and rhyme and structure and things like that. So I went
Yeah.
on Pinterest and I was like,
Ooh.
poetry structure. And then I found like a bunch of like templates and I tried out a ton of them. And
Oh,
it was really fun. Just like, here's a little rhyme scheme for you to follow. See what comes to your mind.
I like that.
Yeah, it was really fun. And this one was called a pantome.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically just like a series of repeating phrases and lines all jumbled up.
Yeah.
And so I wrote one. It's called Go Home. And it goes like this. I don't want to go home yet. I want to stay in the moon's soft glow. Stay with me and show me off, 'cause strangers are lovers we don't yet know. I want to stay in the moon's soft glow. I want to drink in the calming chaos, 'cause strangers are lovers we don't yet know. And lovers are strangers we haven't yet lost. I want to drink in the chaotic calm. Stay with me and show me off. Lovers are strangers we haven't yet lost. And I'm not ready to go home yet, whatever the cost. And that's it.
I love that.
Thank you.
That was so good.
Thank you so much.
But yeah, so maybe Maggie will put more of hers on
Yeah,
TikTok
I would love
also.
to. Hmm.
But those were our Monday and Thursday
Hmm.
quests, our double, triple quests.
Yeah.
And this week, as we hinted last week, we're going to share some nightly stories.
Yeah.
And today, Maggie's going to share hers.
I am. I'm going to tell you guys all about Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. The Green Knight!
Ah!
So this was kind of it was my favorite for a really long time. There was a movie that came out in 2021 with Dev Patel, aka Hottest Man in the World, and he played Sir Gawain. And I saw this movie and it was like super artsy, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna like this. And then I went there and I was like, I don't understand this movie at all. What is going on? This is the weirdest story I've ever heard in my life. But I saw it again and I really ruminated with it. And I was like, oh, I get it. Because medieval stories is based on a poem from like medieval times.
Mhm.
And medieval stories are not super linear or chronological, and they weren't recorded very well. So there's
Mm-mm.
usually a lot of missing pieces and a lot of things that in modern days we don't super understand because they're like lost in translation, or they were so far different from how we do things now that they just don't really make sense to us. So, but
Mhm.
once like sitting with it and doing research on the story, I was like, I love this story so much because it's about like a great knight, Sir Gawain of the Round Table, but at the core of the story, he's just like a scared man.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, relatable. I too am just a scared man. And so the story goes a little something like this. Sir Gawain is a knight, and he is hanging out with all of these dudes at the round table, hanging with this king, and he wants to be king, as everybody does back in the old days. And
Don't we all?
right, and this witch, Morgan Le Fay, she summons this green knight who is he's a knight, but he's like green. That's pretty much his whole thing. He's a knight and he's green.
Yeah.
And in the movie, he like looks kind of like a tree, which I thought was a really cool adaptation of it. So he comes and
Oh.
he's like, and it's okay. It's also Christmas.
Oh.
It's also Christmas, and so
Suddenly it's
that's
Christmas.
that's why they're having like a big feast and stuff. I don't really think that's
Okay.
important to the plot, but it's Christmas Day. And so the Green Knight comes in after being summoned by Morgan Le Fay, and he's like, who wants to play a little Christmas game with me? And Sir Gawain, who wants to show off to the Knights of the Round Table, and the king is like, I'll play a game, whatever you want to do. And then the Green Knight was like, okay, well, all you have to do is beat me in a little like sword fight.
Mhm.
But whatever you do to me in a year, I'm going to get to do to you. And that's how the game goes. And Sir Gawain was like, okay, it's pretty easy. This guy's a tree. He's just a green dude. I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Because he really wanted to show off to the round table, he decapitates the Green Knight. Super easy, one fell swoop. The Green Knight didn't even fight back. And they were like, wow, Sir Gawain, you're so cool. And then the Green Knight picks up his head, puts it back on, and he's like, okay, I'll see you in a year because I'm going to do the same thing to you. And
Oh my God.
immediately, Sir Gawain is like, I think I messed up. I think I messed up because I told him I was going to do it.
Oh my.
Just so scary. And so a year passes, and it is time for Sir Gawain to go to the Green Knight to get what's coming to him because he like made this promise that he was going to finish the game.
Yeah.
And so he goes on an adventure, and all the way there, he's running into people that are like trying to stop him on this mission. He gets like mugged by a guy who steals like his sword and his axe and all these things. And he also gets a cloak from his mother that if he's wearing it, he won't be hurt. And so she's just like, wear this and cheat this guy because he's going to try to cut your head off, and he can't because you have this special magic cloak on. He's like, wow, that's so genius.
Yeah.
Wow, okay, yeah, I think I'll do
Duh.
that. Yeah. And then he goes into the woods and he runs into this like lord's house and into their manor, and he stays there for the night. They like feed him, give him clothes and all this. And he has a wife, and she's like super into Sir Gawain. And so the lord of the manor is like, you can do whatever you want in this castle. Like you can hunt my animals, you can do whatever you want, but just make sure whatever you get, I'll like give back to you. Like it's gonna be
Mm.
even, kind of like the Green Knights game. Like whatever
Mhm.
I get, you get in return. And so he goes to sleep, and then the wife tries to seduce him.
I
And but Sir
remember
Gawain is like,
this.
no, you get one little kiss from me. And so when Sir Gawain was getting ready to leave, the Lord kisses him back, and he's like, I know what you did with my wife. So he had to be like, I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to.
I didn't mean
I didn't
it.
know. Yeah. And so he continues on his adventure. He runs into a fox, and the fox like talks to him with a human voice. And he's like, "Hey man, I know where you're going. Me and the Green Knight, we know each other. You should probably run away because you're gonna get your head cut off. And
Yeah.
and Sir Gawain was like, oh, no way, I'm scared. But he goes all the way to the Green Knight anyway, and he waits all night because the Green Knight is asleep, and he stays there, and he's just like thinking about how he's getting ready to die. He's like, oh God, I'm really scared, I'm really scared. And then the Green Knight wakes up, and he's like, Sir Gawain, you're here. Are you ready to get your head cut off? And this is where the movie adaptation and the poem kind of differ, because in the poem, he keeps his special little scarf on, and so the Green Knight goes to chop his head off, and it doesn't work because he has his magical cloak on. And then the Green Knight is like, ha ha ha, you got me. Go home and go be the king.
Oh.
Yeah. So they're the kind of the trick that they played worked on him, and he gets to go home and continue living his life.
Yeah.
But in the movie adaptation, he is about to get his little head swung on him, like the axe is about to swing down and hit his head, and it goes to like a flash forward where the same thing happens. Like he runs away, he doesn't fulfill his promise to the Green Knight, and he goes home and he becomes the king. And years go by, and he loses his wife, he loses his family, his kingdom falls to ruin, and he's lost, alone, and shamed by his whole kingdom. And he flashes back into the moment, and he's like, wait, if I don't fulfill this promise, what kind of knight am I anyway? Like, all of this is like, if I'm not honorable, then what am I?
Yeah.
And so he takes his cloak off, and he's like, okay, now you can fulfill the promise. And then the Green Knight swings the axe, and it cuts to black. Yeah,
That's
it is
crazy.
so crazy. So the movie, it never really tells you if he lives or dies, but it tells you that he fulfilled his promise to the Green Knight, that whatever he did to the Green Knight would happen
This
back to him.
knightly code of honor.
Yeah.
Oh my
And I thought
god.
about that for so long after I saw this movie. I saw it like 3 years ago, and it just like stuck in the back of my mind. Like, why would he do that if he knows that he could die? But he had a promise, and like the knights, they kept their promises.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
mean, who are you without your honor? Who are you
Right?
without, your loyalty
Yeah.
and what you stand
Hmm.
for? If he had
Exactly.
nothing to stand for, then what was he doing?
Right? Yeah. And if
Wait, that's
you're
crazy.
yeah, and he did all of this because he wanted to be the king. But if you're a king with no morals and no capacity to fulfill commitments, then your kingdom is going to fall to ashes.
You're hardly a king at all.
Exactly. Hmm.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mm, I like I like that ending in the movie, but
Hmm.
that makes me wonder like what happens beyond the story in like when he actually does become the king, like does his
Yeah.
kingdom end up staying that way or
Right.
whatever? I
Hmm.
remember like honestly the hardest thing about, reading it when I had to read it for class was like it was just like the old like language.
Yep.
The medieval language was literally
Hmm.
the hardest thing
Oh
to
yeah.
like understand or read
Hmm.
because I was like I have no
What
idea
are they saying?
like
Yeah.
what they're even freaking
Hmm.
saying.
Yeah.
But that's crazy. I love
It's
that.
such a great story, and I love an ambiguous ending, so you can kind of
Yeah.
put your own spin on it and be like, I think the Green Knight let him live because he was so nice and pretty.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Why do you think the knight, you know, let him go on for that year
I don't
before,
know. Yeah.
getting
Hmm.
essentially revenge, right?
Right? Yeah. So the Green Knight was kind of created. It was like a magical creation from Morgan Le Fay, which is like a paganistic, like a witch sorceress creature. I mean, not creature, person in the Arthurian tales.
Yeah.
And she's often at odds with Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table.
Yeah.
But in the movie adaptation, she's also Sir Gawain's mother.
Oh.
Yeah. And so I think that they were given that year so Morgan and Sir Gawain could kind of see like what kind of man are you going to be? Like you have a year to decide what you're going to do with this
Yeah.
promise that you have to fulfill. Are you
Yeah.
going to flee and change your name and never see the Green Knight again, or are you going to own up to it when the time
Yeah.
comes? Hmm.
Because like the idea is that like it's like if you're comparing it to like the way the movie ended and the way that the original writing had ended, it seemed
Hmm.
like in the movie he had finally like learned some sort of lesson,
Yeah.
right? It served a
Hmm.
purpose like waiting that year, especially because the thing with the, the guy's wife, and he's like, oh shoot,
Yeah.
like my bad.
Uh-huh.
Like
Hmm.
he had this guy kissing him because his wife kissed.
Yeah.
So it's just
Yep.
like, and if I remember correctly, there's like quite a few little things that happen throughout that are
Hmm.
similar instances where like he does something and then something like that happens to him.
Yes, there's another part in the story where he runs into a ghost in the
Mm,
woods, and it's like a headless woman, and she says to
yeah.
him like, "Hey, could you go find my head at this lake? I really
Yes.
need it." And so he goes, gets her head out of the lake, and the next morning when he wakes up, his axe that the muggers took has actually returned back to him.
Yes.
So just like fulfilling a promise to one person will, come back to you in a way.
Hmm. Yeah, and we
Hmm.
kind of get this idea of like karma, and what goes around
Yeah.
comes
Hmm.
around, and like your effect that, you have on other people eventually comes back on you. The same way you can influence others, they can influence you.
Hmm.
Except not everyone is a green knight that can just put their head back on, you
Right.
know.
Like, there are real
But
life consequences.
there are real life consequences to
Yeah.
your actions.
Hmm.
But that is such a crazy story.
Hmm.
I think I'm looking at some of the writing I had wrote when I had first read it,
Hmm.
because basically it's just me like analyzing all the nature in the story, because
Yeah.
the nature is so, it's described very like dark and almost innocent in a way, like untouched by people.
Yeah.
And then we get these tidbits of like influence where like we see Sir Gawain and his men like hunting the deer that are literally like fleeing, and they have the dogs and like the hounds chasing them and
Hmm.
things like that. And meanwhile, Sir Gawain ends up like trying to figure out how to save his own life
Right?
without having to fulfill his own promise.
Hmm. Yeah, and then when you think of the Green Knight as like a personification of nature, there becomes this whole story of like, how is the things that we're doing to the earth gonna affect us in the future? And then there's like a whole
Yeah.
environmentalist
There's like a
standpoint.
whole
Yeah.
bigger picture to it.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna read a little section that I
Yeah.
have, because since we're talking about the nature, and especially like the nature of nature itself, but
Hmm.
also men and the influence it has on it, I have this little excerpt from my old essay. So bear
Love
with
it.
me. But um basically I write, we see here the contrast between man and nature that makes the humans look bad, like they're the monsters and not the creatures that they're hunting. The deer are fearful and fleeing as the hounds and men yell at them and chase them. An example of this, so they let the stags with their tall antlers pass, and the wonderful bucks with their broad horns, for the noble lord had forbidden in the close season anyone to interfere with the male deer. With the hounds aiding in this hunt, it makes me think that the only nature they accept is the one that is useful to them. The men get to exhibit their control in choosing what to hunt, such as the doe instead of the stags, and also control over the hounds. They accept the nature that they can control and hunt those that they can't. The tension is created when the deer flee, but they can't run far because they're cut off. Also, when we see the men's capability in choosing not to hunt a specific animal because they said so. The contrast between the seemingly helpless nature and creatures in these moments reflects poorly on how the men are perceived, like they're the bad guys and the villains in the story.
I love that so much. And it's kind of like when the Green Knight shows up to the Christmas party, all Sir Gawain is thinking is like, how can I make this game make me look good in front of the king? And kind of just using the Green Knight for his own political gain.
Like, yeah, for his own
He's not
advantage.
thinking about the consequences that would happen in the future. So it's
Yeah.
very, very much a parallel between the Green Knight and the rest of nature.
Yeah, and it was like at any cost he wanted to be king,
Hmm.
and look what it ended up costing him.
His
You know,
his neck.
his own neck. Like,
His own
and
neck.
that
Yeah.
was something that, he couldn't really, like, he doesn't You can't. The thing is your actions do have consequences, but you cannot control those consequences. What is
Hmm.
going to happen is going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, you can't. It's like when they say like you can't control what people do to you, but you can choose. You can control how you react to what they do.
Yeah. Hmm.
Type of situation. Um, I would love for 1 week for this podcast, we should pick a story and both of us like deeply annotate it
That would be
and
awesome.
just do a whole literary like
Yeah.
annotation.
Oh, yes, 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 yes. We should
Like,
definitely do that.
I think that would be sick.
Hmm. Oh, that'd be so good. I'll start looking up stories that we can do.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that'd be great.
I will literally like print it out and write
Yes, and write down
like
little notes.
yes and write
Oh my
down little
gosh, I would
notes and
love
everything.
it.
I would love to.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
awesome.
That's a good first story to like pick through.
Yeah.
Why did you pick that one?
Well, it's kind of the one of the ones that stuck with me the most from like
Yeah.
school and like reading the
Why do
stories.
you think
And
it stuck with you?
I don't know. Well, okay. Well, I've already talked about how much I love Dev Patel. And
Yeah.
I think it's just I see his face in my dreams all the time. And so
He just came to you.
it really stuck with me. But it also just has kind of, in my mind, just like a clear message. Like,
Yeah.
hey, if you're gonna make promises, you gotta keep them.
Yeah.
Or bad things are probably gonna happen, and people are gonna look at you differently, and you can't run a kingdom like that.
Oh yeah.
Hmm. And
I can get
I
behind that.
love like kind of episodic stories like that where they go on this huge adventure, but along the way they run into all these kooky little creatures.
Mm-hmm.
Like Alice in Wonderland is a big one that does that.
Yes.
Like she's like, "Oh, I have to get out of Wonderland, but on the way, let me do this and this and this and talk to this guy
Yeah.
and this guy," and kind of just steering off the main path. And then eventually, all of those little stories teach you something big at the end. I love
Yeah.
things like that. Yeah.
Oh, I love Alice in
Hmm.
Wonderland. I could talk about that all the time too.
Every all day, every day. Yeah. But that is Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. If
I
you
love.
guys want to talk about it, tell us more in the comments. Tell us if you like the Green Knight, if you think Dev Patel is hot, if you would give up your kingdom to save your neck, whatever you want to do.
Yeah. I know that we mentioned like, actions and consequences and karma. Maggie put in our podcast script that the lesson is that it takes courage to fulfill promises.
Oh
And I
yeah.
wanted to shout that out
Hmm.
because yes, it does. It takes courage, but like, one of your core values has to also be like honesty and staying true to who you are in order to be courageous to fulfill those promises. Because if
Yeah.
you make those promises, you have to be, an honest person to your word. A
Hmm.
perfect example is not a perfect example, but a nice example is Elijah from the Vampire Diaries
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
all my vampire girlies out there.
Hmm.
But his thing is that he's one of the most noble vampires anyone knows because,
Hmm.
despite being an undead bloodsucker, he stays true to his word, you know,
Hmm.
99.9% of the time.
Yeah.
And that's like one of his main characteristics that everyone
Hmm.
knows him by. And so if you're going to make promises or say something or do something pertaining to your character, make sure you're ready to fulfill what you say you're going to
Yeah.
do. You
Hmm.
know? I
Yeah.
like
Like
that.
it's easy to talk, but once you have to put the actions forward and
Yeah.
fulfill what you're talking about, it's gonna be a lot harder. And
You
it's
can talk the talk, but can you
can you
walk the
walk the
walk?
walk? Yeah. Yeah. It's always like, like
Exactly.
when you make plans and then the day of, you're like, it would be so much easier to just stay home
To
and
just
go to
not go.
sleep. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like that's not to say like you're not a shitty person if you cancel, but like
Hmm.
at least be honest about why you're canceling. Just be like,
Yeah.
"Hey, you
Hmm.
know what? My social battery is lower than I thought.
I
I
can't,
can't
yeah.
handle it today."
Hmm.
But instead of being like, "Maybe if I ignore the text it'll go away." Like,
Right? If I just don't
no.
move, they'll forget
Just
I was gonna
don't
go.
move.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Mhm.
just be honest, man.
Yeah, just be honest and do your best to fulfill your promises because it will
Exactly.
be better for everyone.
Yes.
Which leads me to our side quest of the week.
Yes.
So Sir Gawain obviously had a promise to fulfill to the Green Knight, and if he didn't do it, like in the book, then his kingdom might fall to ruins. And if he does do it, he something bad might happen. But he fulfilled his promise and his honor as a knight. Your quest this week is to go out of your way to make a promise to someone and fulfill it. And this can
Hmm.
mean whatever it kind of wants to mean to you. I gave some examples like help someone carry their groceries to the car or help someone cross the street or like very stereotypical
Yeah.
examples. But if like one of your creative friends says, "Hey, can you look at this draft that I'm working on and give me some feedback by this day?" You can be like, "Yes, I promise you I will do that." And then fulfill it and make sure you do it.
I like that. Or
Yeah.
like another example that is very common is like, oh, I want to pay for the people behind me in like a
Yeah.
drive-through, like if you get Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts every single morning, pay for the people like behind you for their
hmm
food and, pay it forward and then maybe they'll pay for somebody else and you could start this whole chain of people helping people and
Yeah.
you never know what that can do for someone's day.
Yeah, just make a promise to someone, whether
I
it's
love
like
that.
internally in your mind or you can do it out loud to them, and
Yeah,
then go out of your way to fulfill it, even if
I
it's
like
more
that.
challenging than forgetting about it.
I like that a lot. That's a
Yeah,
nice quest.
thanks.
I think that's going to be our only quest for today. We'll give you
hmm
guys this week because I also have an Ari quest for Thursday, so we'll give you guys this
Ooh.
week to catch up on your bigger quests
hmm
and to catch up on some smaller quests. We'll just give you two little baby quests.
Two little tiny
Two
baby
little
quests.
tiny baby
Two
quests.
babies.
So just catch up.
Yeah.
Give you a little break and then
hmm
also give us the chance to do some artsy things on TikTok.
Oh yeah.
I love that quest. I love that so much.
Thanks.
I think one of my favorite things is like connecting with people. I always
hmm
tell people this like story of one of the first times I came to Tennessee to visit my grandparents. We took a family trip to Nashville for a couple of days.
Yeah.
And there was one night we were walking like across the bridge onto Broadway. I don't know. I'm not in Nashville, so I don't really remember.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think I was like 12 or 14 or something.
hmm
But we cross like this bridge onto the main street and right before you get to the road, there's like a whole section of like wall and just like concrete where people can like hang out or sit or like street
hmm
performers go do things and stuff like that. And there was this guy playing guitar like a troubadour or whatever just sitting on
hmm
the wall playing his guitar like quietly with his case open on the ground.
Yeah.
And he was playing like the most beautiful thing I had ever
Oh.
heard. And I was like, I love this. And like nothing warms my heart more than like seeing like feeling somebody's soul, seeing
Yeah.
somebody's soul. And he thinks that
hmm
nobody's listening or paying attention.
hmm
And so like I go over and I like asked my mom for like $2 or something and she like gave me whatever money she had at the top of her purse and I like went over and I put it in the case and I was like, I
Oh.
love the song that you're playing. And he was
hmm
like, you do? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, I actually wrote it myself. And he was like, I'm going through a really
Oh.
hard time and so I just kind of come out here and do this all the time. And he was like, I'm really glad
hmm
that you like it. And we had like a whole conversation about him writing music
Yeah.
for like it was like the quickest like 7 minutes of my life.
Yeah.
And but it was like an unforgettable conversation.
hmm
And for like a moment in time, like him and I just like connected
Yeah.
over, him creating his art and music. I was just an observer, but like I was able to like connect and like feel his soul for
Yeah.
a minute through what he was writing. And he probably doesn't even remember that moment. Maybe he does remember that moment, but
hmm
like, I remember him like thanking me for coming over to say something
Yeah.
and he really appreciated me coming over to talk to him.
hmm
And I think about that all the time because like, that made me feel good and I can only imagine like what it made him feel like. And connecting with people is just so important in a world full of disconnect.
hmm
And I think if people connected more often like that and appreciated each other more often, it would make living a lot easier for everybody.
hmm
So I love the
100%.
idea of kind of going out of your way to help somebody else intentionally and
Yeah.
not just like by accident.
hmm No, I think those tiny little fleeting moments that we have with strangers where we can just connect with them and just be in it for like 7 minutes, like you said. I think those are what make our lives what they are.
Yeah.
Just finding people that you never thought you would ever interact with. I had like a 30-minute conversation with a stranger in Walmart the other day,
Yeah.
just talking about like her kids, her life, my life, how they compared, and then we just went our separate ways. And I
And you'll
still
probably
think
never
about,
see her
I'll
again.
probably never see her again, but all of the things that we said, like I'm gonna remember it and it's become like a little part of my
Yeah.
soul. So I
It's
think, yeah.
been like 10 years since that happened for me.
Yeah,
And
wow.
I still remember that
Hmm.
interaction
Yeah,
to this day. And
that's
I'm
so
like, that
beautiful.
just like the idea that, say, I wrote a poem or something that like
Hmm.
I could connect with somebody on that level and they would be thinking about me 10 years later,
Hmm.
or, they could make somebody else think about them 10 years later, and so on and
Yeah,
so forth. And like, it keeps our essence alive. It keeps us
yeah,
alive. It keeps, it keeps us going. We would not be talking about Sir Gawain and the Green Knight if
yeah,
if somebody hadn't written it down and wanted to share this lesson with somebody, share this
right.
lesson
Hmm.
and all these metaphors and stories. You know,
Yeah.
I really
And
like that side quest,
mhm.
Maggie.
Thanks. And going back to the Green Knight, like all of these random little bits in between with the fox and the deer and the lady with no head, when you look at the overall plot and lesson of the story, you're like, these don't really make sense in the story. Like, why did they put these in? They could have concised it down to like 6 chapters and it would be a
Hmm.
full, complete story. But those tiny little moments that he has on the way to fulfill his quest, that's what
Hmm.
made him realize that his quest was worth completing.
Yeah.
So these tiny little
He
moments you can have with strangers are what makes your life worth living.
Exactly. It
Hmm.
all adds up to the bigger picture, because if he had not had those moments, he would not have learned what he was supposed to learn.
Yeah,
It
he would have just
would
gone
have
to the Green
ended.
Knight and be like, "Okay,
All
take
right.
me. I know nothing."
All right, lesson
That's
unlearned.
an unlearned. Yeah.
Like, yeah, no. And then what would be the purpose? What would be the worth in
Right.
in sharing or telling that story? There
Yeah.
wouldn't be any.
Hmm.
And so it's those little things that add up, or in the moment make up the bigger picture.
Yeah.
You might not see it now, but like, with Maggie's story and like my story, I can guarantee me and Maggie both have many of those with strangers,
Hmm.
and we remember all of them.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
And at the end of the day, we might learn or take away something from those that is
Hmm.
personal to us. And yeah, human interaction is so important. Even if
Oh
you're not
yeah.
a people person, I definitely encourage you to even go outside and people watch. You
Yeah.
know,
Hmm.
if you're not someone who is, for those who have social anxiety, I
Hmm.
I get it, y'all.
Oh yeah.
Um Definitely try to people watch. I
Hmm.
if you can't fulfill this week's quest of interacting with
Hmm.
human beings, I encourage you to go back to last week's quest of doing something outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
That maybe doesn't involve interacting with
Hmm.
people in particular, but doing something that is out of your routine.
Hmm.
People watch, go to a new location, try a new food,
Hmm.
um, something like that, to help push those boundaries a little bit without having to emotionally overload.
Yeah, even like making a promise and fulfilling a promise to yourself, I think would be
Yeah,
a
to
good way to
yourself,
do
or
this.
even a family member, if you don't
Yeah,
want to,
mhm.
do something that's easy for y'all.
Yeah,
Remember
like
that all
tell
of these
your
are up for interpretation.
tell your significant other or your like roommate, like, hey, I'm gonna cook dinner for us this week, so
Mm-hmm.
be home and I'll make you dinner,
Yeah,
and then
that's a
do
good
it.
one.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
just be like, I'm gonna read 10 pages or of my favorite book, and then sit down and do it, and be like, done. I completed that promise.
Done.
Yeah.
Yeah. For
Mhm.
those of you with online friends, you could make plans to converse with them instead of playing video games. Get
Yeah.
to know them a little bit on a
Mhm.
deeper level.
I love that.
Because I am one to also just play video games with people all the time, which is
Hmm.
fine, but also I'm like, you guys are my friends, and then I know nothing about half of them.
Yeah.
So maybe be like, hey, we should hang out this week and get in a little Discord call or
Hmm.
FaceTime and chill
I
out
love
with them.
that. Yeah.
Get to know them on a different level than
Hmm.
just, screaming at Call of Duty or Valorant.
As
And
important as that is.
as important as Minecraft mining is,
It is so important.
so important.
Why don't you go down to the mines with them and get to know them?
Yeah, have a little tea party in the mines.
That's my dream.
Oh my god, we should make a little. Oh, can we make a Stardew farm together?
Yes. 100% yes. No, we're
Yes,
doing it. We're doing
please.
it. We're doing
Oh
it.
my god, we're doing it.
Hmm.
It's happening.
Yep. Oh my
I'm
god.
so ready.
I can't wait.
I said Minecraft, and that's what I thought of.
Immediately start
Like
back to
Tea
Stardew
Party,
Valley.
Stardew
Stardew
Valley.
Valley. All roads lead to Stardew Valley.
All roads
Mhm.
lead to Stardew.
It's true.
This is like the second time we've talked about Stardew on the
It
podcast.
is. It's time to make the Stardew podcast. It'd be
I
so
can and I
great.
will.
No, let's do it. I have so many things to say. The lore is like so
So
heavy.
deep.
It's so deep.
I don't even know anything, and I already know it's so deep.
Yeah, like you just get started
I'm
and then
learning. I'm
like
learning it.
Sam and the little kid, their dad is in the war. There's like
What?
there's a war, first of all. And then
Wait,
their dad
hold
is
on a
away at
minute.
war. Yeah. Wait,
What?
are you in year
Well,
1 or year 2?
yes, I'm in
You're
year one. I'm about to be in fall. So I'm going to my first luau or no,
Oh,
Dance of the
the
Jellies.
jellies,
The
the moonlight
the
jellies.
jellies. Yeah, yeah. Dance of the Moonlight Jellies. And I'm really hoping Shane will accept my request
Oh,
to dance with him.
it's so sweet.
Um,
I literally,
oh my god.
whenever I ask
Stardew
someone to be like my
podcast.
date to the dance, I get like literal butterflies.
I know it was so embarrassing when I asked everyone to like the spring dance.
Oh my gosh! And you didn't know anyone well
I
enough.
didn't know anyone. And everyone was
Uh,
like, ew, no. And I was like,
I'm sorry, I'm
my
ugly.
god, y'all. No, Stardew is actually I was like so our whole friend group was playing Stardew. If we end up
Yeah.
putting this in the podcast, I'm gonna give y'all a little
Good. Yeah.
background. But our whole friend group was playing Stardew at some point, and I was literally like laughing at them. I was like, you guys are
It's so
this game
messed up.
looks so dumb. Like you guys look like you're playing a child game. Like go on Roblox, why don't you? And
And we
like
did.
I was like, I don't understand the appeal of like this silly
Oh,
little
it's
farming
perfect.
simulator cozy game. And then Maggie would come to me and be like, oh my god, me and Harvey are having a baby. And then she's like, me and Harvey are fighting and we might get a
Yeah.
divorce. And I'm like, what is happening in
It's
Stardew
intense.
Valley?
It's
Like,
intense.
so I started playing and I got my first cutscene with Shane when
Yeah.
he admits that he has like severe depression and he doesn't want to be around. And that's why he just drinks himself like silly every night.
Shane.
And I'm like, this is a pixelated farming simulator, y'all.
Yeah, I'm crying
Like,
over 6 pixels tall. Yeah.
like this is like if you took out the Pokemon from the old Game Boy games and you were just
Mhm.
running around in the grass, that's what Stardew Valley is.
Yeah.
And I have this drunkard telling me that he is severely depressed and has no
Oh,
friends and hates his life.
that is so
And I'm
sad.
like, what the hell?
Oh my
But all of
gosh.
the characters have like secret things about them, like ambitions and
Yeah.
secret
Mhm.
things that like are deeper that you need to discover
It
as you
is
get to
so
know their
great.
characters. And there's like
Yeah.
cutscenes that are serious like this.
Mhm.
And I was like, I understand the appeal. I streamed Stardew. I streamed Stardew yesterday, like on Sunday yesterday,
Mhm.
or 2 days ago, or a week ago. What day is
Time
it?
means nothing to us.
Time is not real. I stream Stardew on Sundays,
Mhm.
whatever day this is. But I got off stream and I played it for like another half an hour. I was like,
So
I
great.
cannot
Can't
stop.
stop. Oh my
I'm like,
gosh.
it's so addicting.
Mhm.
Anyway, I can
If you want us to start a Stardew podcast, tell us in the comments and we will do it.
please
We
let
need
us know.
one word of affirmation and we will do
Yeah,
it.
if one person says it, I will do it.
Yeah. If
We
half
will.
a person says it, I'll do it. If you say no, we don't want that, I will do it.
Tell me no, and the
And I'll
answer is
say
yes.
yes. I will start the
It's like,
podcast. Yes.
no.
Please don't. We hate
Please
Stardew
don't make a
Valley.
Stardew Valley podcast.
Please.
Oh my gosh.
Well, hope you
All
guys
right.
are ready to fulfill your promises. for this week's quest. Hope you guys like the story of the Green Knight. Definitely read up on it if you want to. Let us know how much you like it. And we'll see
Yes.
you guys on Thursday for another little quest.
Thursday for
And
a little side quest.
Ari will tell us a tale.
I shall. I shall tell you a
Love
little
it. A
tale.
little tale.
I probably won't have as many details as Maggie, but that's
And so
okay.
I like just rewatched it, so I remember everything now.
I was gonna rewatch mine, but it cost money.
Mm, no, thank you.
No
Until we get
thanks.
sponsorships.
Yeah.
You hear that, folks? Oh, what was
Sorry.
that? What was that I see?
So yeah, tune in for Thursday for
Oh
my
yeah.
little tidbit. Join us on the adventure here on Spotify or on YouTube if you want to see our goofy little
Mm-hmm.
faces. Our socials are Questing Hour Podcast, Questing HR Podcast
HR.
on pretty much all socials except
Mm-hmm.
Twitter. It's just Questing Hour because Twitter does not allow me to use 15 characters. So it's just Questing
It's
Hour on
messed
Twitter
up.
where we post daily little quests if our
Daily.
podcast is too much for your brains, which I
Yeah.
understand.
Or if you want to do more quests, then
Or
do
if you're
these
just so
and the Twitter
ambitious,
quests.
you need more,
More
we'll give
quests.
it to you over on Twitter.
Oh yeah. So find us there.
Find us over there.
And we'll see you guys on Thursday.
Farewell!
Farewell.